This is Amanda Edwards, and I'd like to welcome you to the Edwards Empowerment Talks. This podcast provides a platform to empower individuals and the community by showcasing stories of resilient people who have refused to let life's challenges prevent them from achieving their dreams. The Edwards Empowerment Talks will also highlight the work being done in the community that will help to positively shift the trajectory of this nation. Through stories of adversity, perseverance, drive, struggle, and success, the podcast will empower others to believe in their dreams and pursue those dreams despite whatever challenges may come their way. It is also a vehicle to equip the community with the tools necessary to be the change they want to see. I welcome you to tune in. You don't want to miss this. Well, I am delighted to have my next guest for the Edwards Empowerment Talks. And this guest is someone, not only just a friend of mine, but someone who spreads a very important message all across this nation. Her name happens to be Karen Jackson, and she runs the Sisters Network. So I cannot be more excited to welcome her here today. So Karen, thank you so much for joining me on the Edwards Empowerment Talks.
Well, Amanda, I'm delighted to be here with you, and I'm just so proud of all the work that you're doing in our community. You are just a fabulous person.
Thank you.
So this is going to be a beautiful afternoon talk.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to first applaud you for the work that you do and share with you why I thought you were such a perfect fit for our podcast. As you are aware, we try to use the podcast as an opportunity to hear from other people, elevate their stories so that our viewers and our listeners can draw inspiration from those stories. And your story is such a tale of perseverance. I cannot think of someone who embodies perseverance more than you do. And you live it, you walk it, you preach it. And so I would love for my listeners and my viewers to actually have an opportunity to hear your story, draw some inspiration from it. And then, of course, whatever your jewels and pearls of wisdom are, if you'd like to share those as well. So, Karen, welcome on to the podcast today. Now, I want to start off, of course, for those that may not know your story, how you became a 4-time breast cancer survivor, how you started Sisters Network, which has now been reaching families and survivors of breast cancer all across this nation. I want to start off at the beginning of your journey. And so share a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what your family life was like, and of course, I imagine you did not see yourself doing this work. And so how you began to get involved in the world of breast cancer.
Well, that's a very true statement. I was raised in Newark, New Jersey, and had a traditional family, mother, father, and it was 4 of us. Okay. And my family was very tight-knit and very much interested in the siblings, all of us, to succeed in whatever our endeavors were. And we were always told we could do whatever we set out to do. Just stick with it. And I can say that my mom and dad, they were right. And I wish that they had lived long enough to know that I can say that publicly, that they did a good job.
They did a good job. And key phrase, you were right.
Yes.
Moms and dads like to hear that, right?
Yes. It's, sometimes you look back, we all should have said a few things we didn't say, but I know that they hear me and they know that I love them dearly.
Absolutely. And so then what happened next on your journey?
Well, I went to school in Maryland and got married, had 1 child, and moved to California, beautiful LA. And I was doing my own business. I had a hair business. I'm a licensed cosmetologist, and I did my company. I was doing hair weaving. Mm-hmm. I loved the work because I love people. So it gave me an opportunity to not only make people beautiful, but, enjoy the company of my clients. Mm-hmm. And I was aware that I did have a family history. I had a great aunt and my mother's sister. They both died of breast cancer. The aunt didn't let anyone know she had a double mastectomy. No one knew until she passed away. And, when in those days people dressed you and they found out she had had a double mastectomy.
Mm.
So her journey was like some women, alone and sad. And
Was
that
that prevalent back then in terms of what year was that when you found out?
when I found out was in 93, but this was like in the 40s and 50s when
So
my
people kept that to themselves. It was very private back then.
yes, and even when I was diagnosed in the 90s, people were, and my family included, did not want me to speak on the subject or even mention that I was diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like a shame that the family thought I should just, as they put it, not wash our dirty laundry out.
Hmm. And they considered a
That
health
was what
issue
they
to
considered,
be dirty
yes,
laundry.
including my
Understood.
mom, including my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she changed her mind from that. But fortunately, I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
In 93, it was a shame that the medical industry and the pharmaceutical companies and corporations in general, the information that we were receiving was that African American women did not care about their bodies,
Wow.
that we aren't interested in information, and that we would not comply with the protocols that were available to us. But in fact, the institutional racism, that's what we called it then,
Mm-hmm.
now it's the inequity and justice. It's the same, but the communities were not talking about it.
Yeah.
But as a survivor, I knew and felt and saw that the injustices that we had to work with within our organization of not getting the funding that we should get, not getting the resources, and not having an equal playing field. So that was in 1993.
So wait. So let's go back to your personal experience, right? So how did
Yes.
you even come across your diagnosis and finding and discovering
Interesting.
that you had breast cancer the first time?
That's interesting. Because I was slightly aware of my family history,
Mm-hmm.
I was proactive in getting my mammograms each and every year, and I had good insurance, so I made use of that.
Mm-hmm.
And each year I was happy to find out that no, there was nothing wrong in my body. But I was very intuitive about my body, and I always felt something was going on in my right breast.
Mm-hmm.
But with the mammogram saying that it was fine, and I was reading up on different things, and it said breast cancer doesn't hurt. So I kept putting it off. And finally, I decided that there's something wrong, and my doctor is just going to tell me something I can do to find out what's going on in my body. So he recommended a ultrasound that was not the protocol or standard. So that was something extra.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, my insurance did pay for it. And there, lo and behold, I had a 3.5 centimeter palatable mass. So I was diagnosed at stage 2. And just think, I've been talking to my doctor all along for a couple of years about something's wrong. And he would say, no, there's nothing wrong. Don't worry. You're overreacting. So I listened. But after I found out that I had breast cancer, and I was devastated because I thought I was being proactive so I wouldn't be at a stage 2 of
Right.
carcinoma. And so I had to do the 6 months of chemotherapy and 6 weeks of radiation.
So wait a
And
minute. Who did you tell? Because I think
I
when
told
people
my
get that
physician,
news, that
I
is
told my
shocking.
physician every time I would go for either a regular checkup and of course during my mammogram. But the good news, I was thinking, well, the mammogram is clear.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy, but I was concerned with what I was feeling. So it was my intuition that kept me asking the question, what else can you do? Because there's something wrong with my breast.
So
So
when you
unfortunately, being proactive,
mm-hmm.
he listened, but he did it reluctantly.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually shed a tear when he had to tell me that I had breast cancer and that it had been there for about 6 years or more
Wow.
because of the size. So I was way behind where I should have been, finding it at an earlier stage. That
Were you feeling as if that might have been a death sentence for you, finding out
I
that you were
did.
at stage 2 breast cancer?
I took it at as a death sentence because I was told that be grateful for 5 years. Well,
Wow.
5 years not impressed me.
You were like, I'm not impressed with that option. So we're gonna pick some other
So
options here.
I was definitely not impressed. And I was unhappy with the fact that I was put in a position that I didn't have to be in. So once I got over that, I started thinking in terms of, and the women that I was meeting, they were having even a worse time than I was having, particularly because of lack of access and, insurance situations.
You were
And
meeting
then
them at the hospital, or where were you
I
meeting
was in
these women?
the hospital, and I sought out some support by going to different organizations like the American Cancer Society and a few of the standard ones that were white.
Mm-hmm.
And I would run into one or two African American women, but there was nothing that I felt drew me in to want to stay in the group. I learned information, but I was looking for the camaraderie of the sisterhood that I created sisters to be.
Okay.
That you have someone that can go through the journey with you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
That you can count on this person, you can count on the organization, someone you can talk to about what you're going through who understands and who will learn what you're learning, share what you're sharing, and the love and the camaraderie. It's just something that's so important. And I needed that during my journey. So I was looking for that. And I thought I could pick up the phone and call an 800 number and join a national organization for breast cancer for African American women. I actually was amazed that nothing existed at that time.
That you were gonna be the one to have to create the number.
And when I decided that this was something important and I wanted to give back to the community, and I knew with the few advantages that I did have, I still could have slipped through the cracks had I not been an advocate for myself and requesting. Actually, I was demanding, what else can you do?
That's right.
And so because I knew that other women, probably some would do something like I did, but basically most women aren't aggressive enough to tell their doctor, you need to find something. This is something wrong. Do something about this.
Right. And Karen, let me have you pause for a moment. So when you were looking for this network, you were going through your treatment options. You had gotten the chemo. Did you have surgery at that point, and then radiation?
I had surgery. I had the chemo and the radiation. And during the time I had my surgery, and at that time they were doing surgery before chemo. And of course, the situation is better now.
Mm-hmm.
You do the chemo and then your surgery, but I didn't have that option.
Mm-hmm.
I was the event planner for my daughter's wedding in California.
So you were going through chemo and planning a wedding.
10 days out from surgery. And the event planning, you have to do everything pre the event.
Yeah.
So at the event, I tried on my outfit and I forgot that I had the tube, the draining tube out of my breast. It was under my arm. And of course, my outfit did not look good with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, to tell you how I was in my mindset, I pulled the tube out.
No, you didn't. I did not hear that. I did not hear you say that.
I was determined that I was going to look like the mother of the bride. And
oh my gosh.
I wasn't going to have this tube hanging from my outfit. But I thought it was like just stuck in there, not too deep. I must have pulled out, at least a foot of tubing. I kept pulling and pulling, and it didn't stop, and it wasn't out. So I just finally yanked it all out.
I know your doctor did not know you were doing that.
If I had known what was happening, I wouldn't have done it. But
yes.
there again, when you don't know,
mm-hmm.
you do some foolish things. And that was foolish, but I lived through it.
Mm-hmm.
I put the bandage, I did the drainage, I made sure that it didn't show through my clothes. Mm-hmm. I looked beautiful. And no one knew that I had surgery. They knew that I had been diagnosed, but they didn't know I had surgery already.
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want that to be the conversation at the wedding.
Okay.
So that was an interesting thing. So I, of course, read up more about what the tube is about.
Yeah.
And
And got in trouble, I would imagine.
word on that so that nobody else thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
But so in doing that, I was learning things about myself. How far would I go?
Mm-hmm.
What did I expect of myself? And I was still thinking in terms of the sisterhood. I wanted to pick up the phone. I wanted to go to lunch with someone. I wanted to go to the meeting and meet up afterwards. That
Mm-hmm.
was important to me. And so when I found out that 5 years is what they thought was a long time to live with this breast cancer, I picked up, and my husband and I, we moved to Texas.
Okay.
And that was not on our list.
Okay.
But with 5 years in my mindset, I did not want to be away from my daughter. I only had one child.
Okay.
And I knew that with her getting married, she's going to have children because that's what she wanted to do. And I wanted to be there for her, especially if only I had 5 years. So we picked up and started over in Houston.
Wow.
And what a blessing that was.
Yes. And so were you at that point so would they have considered you to be in remission at that point when you moved to Houston?
Well, that was only within the year of my diagnosis. So it's kind of hard to say about remission.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself, I have always been of the mindset that I never considered remission. I always had the mindset of finding whatever's going wrong and fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where that came from, but it worked for me.
Well, yeah.
As
we will learn as the story continues. And so you got to Houston. Did you immediately kind of find your space in terms of doctors and help when you got to Houston, or was that a process?
And I found out what was the top medical center here, and I've been with them for now 27 years.
Okay.
And so I've been happy with being able to, in Houston, you have a lot of choices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good because there's so many cities and states where you don't have a choice. You have to go out of your environment to another state in order to be at a capable educational hospital.
Yeah.
All of them are not equal. And that's a shame.
And you recommend people do their research if they're not in an area like Houston where there are so many strong facilities that provide cancer, have cancer research going on constantly and that provide treatment.
It's imperative that you do the research about not only your doctor, but the facility that they are associated with. It can be a life and death situation. It's that critical.
Yes.
And through my experience of my own initiative and talking to women about breast cancer, when I moved here, I only knew one person, which was my daughter. Yeah. And everywhere my husband and I would go, I would see other women who looked like me. I would introduce myself, give them a pamphlet that I put together and talked about a national organization for African-American women. I named it and everything. I had a phone, which was my home phone, and a borrowed desk. And if anyone called that number, I would say, you've reached the National Office of Sisters Network, and it was just me.
Wow. But you believed in what you were trying to create.
I believed that we needed a national organization, and I had enough common sense to know that if I just said, it's just me, that wouldn't have been sufficient. Nobody would call back.
Also good foresight.
So,
the network of one.
The network of one. And I learned from that no matter what you're thinking about doing, if you have the passion and you make sure you get your knowledge, it doesn't all have to be lined up, ready to go as soon as you start, just as long as you keep working on it. Because trust me, I did not have the knowledge when I started Sisters Network. And that was okay because I had the passion and I had the focus to stay with it.
So then what happened next? Because you grew from the network of one to becoming this multi-city national network of women and their families who need support, who are enduring breast cancer, who've survived breast cancer. And
Yeah.
how did you transition?
Well, the transition for me, I took advantage of the first place that I lived in LA. I mean, I lived in New Jersey. I moved to LA. I lived in Chicago. I lived in Orlando, Florida, and I went to school in Maryland. So I had family and contacts in every state and every city I ever lived in. So when I moved here, I found 15 women who looked like me, who were survivors, who liked the idea of a national organization, but they didn't really believe it was possible. But they let me go on and say it was a national organization, but it was so I wouldn't allow them to come to, it was in my apartment now.
Yeah.
When they came to my apartment, they had to say that they were at the national headquarters. They could not say we're going over to Karen's house.
They were going to the national headquarters.
That is not the password to get in.
That's awesome. And
But
so
it just humored me, let me just, live my fantasy and didn't, object. But they thought it was funny.
yes.
But I was very serious. This was the national headquarters, and we have the same number, which was my personal number when I moved here. So rather than change sister's number, I changed the number for my family and I.
Yeah.
So sisters had the same number
Yeah.
since I started. And I just believed that I needed to stay focused. And no matter what anybody thought, I didn't let them change my mind of where we were going.
Right. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't know is that there are different types of breast cancers, for example,
Yeah.
and some of which have more of an impact in women of color, African American women. Tell us a little bit about kind of, a lot of the times people say, "Oh, I gave some money for research," and that doesn't always get evenly distributed. And I think a lot of people don't realize that as well. So what did you, when you were learning that?
That's a very good question. And I can tell you that when our women were in the beginning and not so long ago, before they start talking about triple negative, they blamed African American women for everything. We were lazy, we didn't care, we didn't get in early enough. But when you have an aggressive cancer,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have time to think about it. You have to get in immediately. So when people say wait 6 months and watch something, no.
Yeah.
You get that tumor biopsied and find out that it's nothing or that it is something. But 6 months can be the difference between living and dying. So the urgency in certain types of breast cancer is there. And unfortunately, we have a prevalence of getting that triple negative type breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So we have less time if that's the one that we have. Now, I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma, and I had it for 6 years before I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a slow growing breast cancer. So that I was blessed with that type of breast cancer. Had I had triple negative, I wouldn't be here today.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask this question of you as well, because some of it is learning about your cancer type, how, what research people were been able to do. Tell me a little bit about what you built Sisters Network, besides for the camaraderie, what else you've built it out to become. And I want to know how you built it. Because again, you told me how you started off, and we know that it was Karen's house, and but eventually became
that's a secret.
Just you and my viewers will know that. My listeners and viewers will know. But you built it out to be this huge organization that has such a strong impact. How did you actually get people to start believing in that vision?
Well, we started out with having the mission of helping other women to have a better journey. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, we had to learn what that journey should look like. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want the journey to be something that I read about. I wanted to accumulate different situations, different scenarios, and start talking about what's best for us. because there's a lot of information. Sometimes it's good for other folks, but it doesn't work for us. Just like, why wait till you're age 40 when too many of us are diagnosed under 40? So knowing your family history, knowing your body, you can have a better idea when you should start.
And it's
Because
key to intervene early.
you have to know what's going on in the breast health community so that you can analyze and think about yourself, what's going on in your body. So many women, they think if they don't feel, if there's nothing to feel, like there was nothing for me to feel with my fingers, doing the breast self-exam, because I had a palatable mass, which is flesh, not that small pea size and that calcification that we all read about, looking for that hard knot. I didn't have that. So I could still be looking for that and not be.
Right. Because and these are the things that I think are really important pieces of information, Karen,
small
because
pieces, if it's you, it's important.
Yeah. And so you think, oh, I'm going to do a self-examination, or I'm looking for something. You have to have in your mind a construct of what you're looking for, right? And so we're often thinking it's going to feel like a little pebble or a little stone or something like that. And you've just shared that's one type of mass, but that's not exclusively just the way masses are
written down, because it's so much information that you really have to first decide who you are and what your family is about. Like you've got prostate cancer in the family, or colon, or any of the cancers, you should start looking at, maybe you could be the one with the breast cancer, because if cancer is running in the family, ovarian or something like that.
And you mentioned, and I think this is important too, Karen, is that not all cancers, have a family history. That's another piece of this too, because sometimes we get an inflated sense of confidence and say, oh, there's no real family history of that. Half of new cancer diagnoses, they're not seeing that same high level of family history in the same way. So being diligent, of course, you want to be even more diligent when you know there's a family history, but it's not time for a nap for those that don't have a knowledge of the family history. Or better yet, just use your example. What about your aunt who didn't want to tell anyone, and they didn't know it until her death, right? And so sometimes we don't even know our family history.
There's a lot of that going on in all families. Women who are keeping this a secret because they're ashamed, and they shouldn't be, but they've taken it on as a shame. And that's one of the things that I made sure with the women who joined Sisters Network, is that we were not ashamed of being diagnosed at all. We found a new normal that we could live with. Each of us found our own normal, and we helped each other. You have to find who you are and who you want to be. Now, being diagnosed 4 times, I found 4 normals in me. And if I have to go 5 times, I'm going to find another 5.
So, Karen, so part of this podcast is about equipping people with the tools that they need so that they can shift the mindset that they need to, or find strength they didn't know they had. And what I just heard from you is remarkable. Yes, you are a 4-time breast cancer survivor. Tell me, how do you have that tenacity to say, and if I have to be a 5-time breast cancer survivor, I'm going to do that as well? Where do you find that strength? What happens when Karen gets down? And does that happen to you? First and foremost, what do you do to charge back up and say, I'm a fighter, I'm going to fight this with all that I have?
Well, being involved with Sisters Network all these years, you have your highs and lows, but you don't stay there.
Yeah.
It's impossible to say you're not ever down or depressed or low.
Yeah.
That would not be the case. You just are able to pull yourself up and get going. And I had the last experience in 2019, and this is very interesting, and I want your audience to listen to this. I was going with the protocol of mammogram ultrasound at one of the top hospitals. And each time they said there was nothing there with the mammogram and ultrasound. And I told the doctor, I said, there is something there and I need to have another type of test. So he scheduled an MRI.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first MRI of my breast, and they found 2 cancers.
Wow. So
Yes.
again, you
I
being
can't
in
tell.
tune with your own body and saying, nope, I don't care what the test results have yielded with
I
the
knew
test you've
something was there.
selected. There's
Yes.
something going on here. And what made you sense that? Was there,
Felt the same felt that I had that was there 3 other times. And
mm-hmm.
fortunately, I was paying attention. And of course, had the doctor said, don't worry about it, I would have to go somewhere else.
Yeah. And so
But I,
let's go back to your journey on the second diagnosis. What was going on at that time? You had been keeping up because right after,
yeah, go ahead.
so after you had your first diagnosis, you went through the regimen and you were paying attention. They tell you you've got to come in for your checkups, and there's kind of always a hold your breath moment, right? When you go
And
in.
and it's funny because the doctor would say, well, we only have to do the ultrasound on the breast that you had the first cancer in. I said, no, no, no. But we need an ultrasound on both breasts.
Yeah.
And that was before I even had anything wrong with it. It just didn't make common sense to me
Yeah.
to do one, but they do that.
Mm-hmm. And so
And
you insisted, no.
you have to be an advocate. You have to ask for what you know you
Okay.
should get.
So stop there, because I think before you have your direct encounters in the medical environment where you are a patient or you're trying to be an advocate for a patient, you hear people say that, oh, you got to be an advocate. What does that mean when you say you've got to be an advocate? Does that mean that you have to know your own treatment, and you be the doctor? Or does that mean, what does
You
that
have to
mean?
be willing to ask questions.
Okay.
You have to be willing to do some reading and thinking on your own. This is not going to just be something laid out in front of you,
Right.
but you can connect with organizations like Sisters Network. We answer these kinds of questions. If you come to us, I've had so many, and this is scary to think of, but women who would have the cancer growing out of their breasts, and they would say, what do I think? What do I think? And the question is, what do you think? This is your body.
Mm-hmm.
But women are in denial,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to believe. And if I hadn't seen it and heard it, and I wouldn't believe it either, but it's true. Some women can get to a point where they're in so much denial that they just hoping that it's not cancer. It's
Anything.
probably a boil or something.
Anything
Yeah.
but that.
But cancer.
Because people think
Yeah.
of cancer as a death sentence, right?
Yeah. And if you don't get in early, it can be.
That's right.
But you have time. You just have to have knowledge, direction, and the tenacity to ask for what you need. And it doesn't matter that you don't have insurance. We have saved women who don't have insurance. It's not easy. Trust me, it's so much harder, but it can be done. But everybody doesn't have that capacity to do it. And every hospital is not going to be receptive to just anybody saying, well, this person needs help. Everybody needs help of some type.
Right.
So you have to connect with people who have the resources to slot you in here or there. And it's acceptable for the hospitals to agree. I always say there's room for one more. And that's how I look at it.
That's
one
right.
more. But we can't just keep taking people who don't have insurance. One more.
Yeah. You just keep pushing for that one more. We take it one at a time.
Yeah.
Well, so Karen, okay, so let's go back. So you get to.
Why do we have to go back, Amanda?
We gotta go back because what I think I think you're strong, but I think you don't appreciate how your strength can really be infectious. So I want people to really kind of walk in your shoes. So when they get through listening to this interview, they will not only just be as amazed of your journey as I am, but also inspired in their own journey. You know what I mean? And to
Well,
walk in that shoe and that path of what she was thinking and how she made it through will help that next person to make it through. And so when you got the second diagnosis, how was your mentality? You said to yourself, I'm not going to make it. I am going to make it. How did you approach it? Was it the same way as the first time, or did you feel a little bit more of a
the second time around, I had to tell the doctor
mm-hmm.
that something was there again.
Yes.
And because it didn't show. So by the time it showed, I had already showed them where it was. They had to wait till it actually materialized enough to see it on the machine.
Wow.
I knew where it was. I pointed where it was, exactly where they found it.
Wow. And so in terms of treatment and that sort of thing, were you encouraged, or how did you feel like, I beat it the first time, I'm going to beat it the second time as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I had the knowledge. I had the insurance. I was healthy. I made sure that I kept my health up. You know, when you have comorbidity situations, like, you know, you can have hypertension or heart or diabetes, and I am a diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to really watch myself, especially when it's time that I think I might have breast cancer again. I kind of clean my act up a little bit better. Mm-hmm. I'm not good all the time, mm-hmm. but I get better when I know there's something coming up. But a person has to, it goes back to knowing your body, gaining enough knowledge, and associating yourself with people who know what to do on your behalf. When you don't know what to do, that's where an organization like Sisters, we get calls every day from people across the country. A husband's calling for a wife, a daughter's calling for her mother, or the person's calling for themselves. They're stuck. They don't know what to do because it's fear mm-hmm. and not knowing what to do. So you don't do anything.
It's paralyzing.
Yes, the fear of finding out something, or the fear of taking the next step. Fear is real. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I understand it. But you can't stay in that state of fear and want to live at the same time.
Say that again, please. Please say that again.
And not stay in a state of fear and live too. Yeah. Living has to outdo your fear.
Mm-hmm. And I think people don't always relate that there are consequences to not dealing with what they're scared of. It's not to suggest that it's not scary to get a diagnosis like that.
Scary, very scary.
Right.
But you got to get over it.
Yeah, you got to push through the fear.
If you can't do it yourself, you find the person to help you get through it. We all need help at different stages in our life. And with breast cancer, there's any number of women who be willing to help you get through your fear and go to the next step. Mentally, most of us can't handle too much stress at one time. Mm-hmm. So you de-stress by deorganizing something that's in front of you. Cut it up, split it up.
How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
God. Yeah. But get it off your plate.
Yeah, get it off of your plate. Now, let me go back. So when you got the third diagnosis, what was happening in your life at this stage, and how did you come across that? Was it because of just you going in like the other first two times? Same situation.
No one found the cancer before me.
So you always knew. Now, you know your case is very rare, right? Like a lot of the time, people don't have a sense.
I don't know how rare, because there's no study, but it can't be rare. Nothing's rare. It just means nobody did any research on it.
Right.
It's not interesting enough.
Mm. And so with the third time, did you have the same attitude about it as you had the first two times?
And like the surgeon wanted me to, she says, well, this is your third time. Why don't we just get 2 new breasts? So that was her answer.
So she wanted to do a double mastectomy.
Double mastectomy.
And talk about that, because I think there's a lot of research out now that a lot of people are not privy to in terms of, lumpectomies versus mastectomies. The lumpectomy being that you take the tumor out, and leave the breast intact.
I'll bust a few bubbles, because we would all like brand new, beautiful breasts. But in my case, and in cases of many women,
Mm-hmm.
having new breasts, the sensitivity that I have now would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I put myself at risk of not being able to find the cancer because I have new breasts?
Mm-hmm.
The cancer is not going to go away because I have new breasts. Cancer will find breast tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of us, when we hear about, oh, she had a double mastectomy, you're thinking, well, she's home free because she won't get cancer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that were the case, I would have had that the first time around.
Right.
But it's not true.
Because
Your,
there's still breast tissue.
It's not just the large part that's in your bra. Your breast is up to your shoulder, under your arm, under your breast. That's breast tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the breast tissue for the new breast, it'll be in your upper shoulder or under your arm. It's going to be there if it's supposed to be. Now, if you're lucky enough never to have another episode,
Mm-hmm.
then you have the complication of the implant leaking, which gives you another problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
there are a lot of research that needs to go into your decision about the treatment that works for you. Okay, so one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we got you on the show right now happens to be because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And can you talk a little bit about the significance of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and why it's important that people acknowledge and spread the word, donate, all the things that happen during Breast Cancer Awareness Month? A lot of the times you see a lot of men and women wearing pink.
Having an organization that's doing the work for African American women,
Mm-hmm.
and the money flows around us, over us, and under us.
Mm-hmm.
But people expect us to perform the things that we want to do for our community without money.
Yeah.
Like it's a miracle. You're supposed to do it because it's the right thing to do. But we do need the funds to do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always happen.
And
I can tell you, Black Lives Matter has made an impact on this year's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've had individuals who never thought of us before call now, a few new people who have discovered us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've only been around 27 years, but they just discovered us, who are now interested in who we are and what we do, because their conscience of wanting to do something for African American women has finally kicked in. It's not that we've done any more or any less.
It's consciousness after the
communities has changed.
Yeah, the consciousness in the community in the aftermath of George Floyd, I think, has caused a heightened awareness across a much broader spectrum of the country. And so now people are looking for ways to be, help in a reparative and add some value in ways that they may not have been doing in years past.
That's the case. So we say thank you for our community sticking with making a difference in the injustices that cross every facet of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't think of it as touching health, but there's where it touches the most.
Yes.
Because without your health, you have nothing. I don't care how much money you have, how much education you have, how beautiful you are. If you don't have your health, you have zero.
Yes. And I think, I think back and, just in terms of that, how impactful that statement is and how it's touched my own life. So I'm going to share with my audience a story that you know personally. In October is so last October, in fact, I got to celebrate my mother's birthday. And in 2019, my mom, who was for the first time diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember how stunned, literally like it knocked the breath out of me because I didn't even think that was possible. She'd made it all these years. She didn't have that diagnosis. There wasn't a high level of prevalence on her side of the family, all of the things. So I'm all like, oh, the boxes are, in her favor. And of course she gets her diagnosis. And what a lot of people don't realize or appreciate is that not only is that news stunning and just, eye-opening and shocking for the person who hears it, who's impacted directly, meaning the patient, but also the patient's family. And
Yes.
I remember picking up that phone. Now, full disclosure for those that don't know, Karen is also my link sister, and so we also have an additional bond there, all of those things. But separate and apart, I thought of Karen because of Sisters Network. And I remember picking up that phone. I didn't know where on earth to start. And get this, I had my father passed away from cancer. So I had some exposure to cancer when when I was growing up with my dad's diagnosis. However, breast cancer, as prevalent as it is, I didn't even know where to start. That just wasn't even in my wheelhouse, let alone in my wheelhouse at this time. And so I picked up that
Hated.
phone
You
and
didn't know.
I don't, you just, that analogy of just feeling like you're drowning. It also applies, in addition to the patient, to the family members, in terms of if this is shocking news to them. And so in our case, certainly I was, immediately called to action. I wanted to make sure she got the best care, and what should she do, and where should we talk to, where are the resources, who can she, are there networks I can introduce her to. I was going to be this person, this gatherer of stuff for her and
You
resources
did
for
good,
her.
girl.
I tried, but and some of it is just to keep your own self feeling like you're, trying to be a good advocate in support system for your family member. And so I remember picking up that phone and I called Karen and I said, Karen, my mom's got this diagnosis. What should we do? Who do we talk to? And just being able to actually have a cell phone number in my phone of someone who actually knew this space and knew the work that was before us, and all of the journey that was to come, was so helpful. And so this time last year in October is when we celebrated my mom's birthday. In addition to her having finished her chemo treatment, because she had a difficult journey in her chemotherapy, and so that was just a relief. And I think back on that, and I said, "Gosh, what a difference a year makes!" So it is such. I just want to thank you in front of my audience for being such a wonderful support system, and being there in a network of women to really lend that support, because I am I'm not a patient, but I'm certainly a beneficiary of the fact that you guys have such extensive resources. And even if it's just an emotional, like, it's okay, there's a whole network of people who have been through this, because you feel like this is just us and our family, or this, you feel isolated. And
I
there's a
do.
whole lot of people going through this experience at the same time. And so I just want to say thank you personally. And so it was my joy also to bring you on, because I am a living testament of having this notion, this feeling of needing to pick up that phone and call somebody who knew what we were getting ready to embark upon. So thank you, Kim.
And I was glad that we were here for you and
Yes.
for your mother, but that's who we are, and
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Well, thank you. And I just want to encourage people also, if they are family members of individuals who are enduring a journey like that, having those networks are important. Sometimes, like Karen alluded to, you feel so overwhelmed, you don't know where to start, so delegate, so if you can't figure it out, delegate that to someone else to deal with. And like you said, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You don't have to try to deal with everything all at the same exact time. And so kind of getting things divided and conquering that way is one, I think, approach that is really helpful. So what would you encourage women to do who, obviously you want to get them to do their self-examinations? Are there other things that you would encourage women to do, and who have not had a battle with cancer?
Ask questions. Be inquisitive about your body. We say our motto and our hashtag is make your health a top priority. Your health, not just breast, your health, a top priority.
Yes. And I think that is so, so important. So important because so many times we make our work our top priority, our family, or our friends, or our, you fill in the blank, all your extracurriculars, your leadership, all of the rest. And we like to tell other people, we'll have programs where we're talking about this, but then ourselves aren't going in and getting checked out for the things
We're
that we
so
need.
right about that. That
Yeah.
I find a lot of women who have the knowledge don't have the action. They need to be pushed just
But
a
we
little.
tell other people, we're like, you go get your mammogram. You do your breast exams at home. We say that, and then we're not doing them ourselves. And there's so many women, I think what was also fascinating to me too is that how many women I came across who were dealing with this so privately, in terms of you just
Why?
need.
Why? And that you heal so much better. You just the light comes on in your spirit. It shows when you're not hiding.
That's right. And there's nothing to hide. And
There
there
isn't.
there's so much, I think, of course, you have to also, I think one thing that's important with people who are dealing with illness or loss or grief, all of those things, you tell people what you need from them. So if you don't want to be that person reminded every time you see somebody about what's going on, you say, hey, next time, let's not talk about the cancer. Let's talk about some funny stuff. I need to be uplifted today. And just tell them what you need and say, I'll let you know when I need to talk about it. Or, because sometimes I think that's why a lot of people keep those things to themselves, because they're like, if I tell everybody every time I see somebody, they're going to bring that up. And so I don't want to tell people, and I can understand that, but just tell
We
them
always
that's not what you need.
say that about other subjects. If somebody says, well, let's talk about the family, you say, well, I don't want to talk about the family. It's the same thing with cancer.
Yeah,
If you're not interested in hearing about it or talking about it, say so.
that's right. You just have to assert what you need,
Yes.
and just tell your friends, your networks, whoever it is, hey, I'm gonna share this information with you, but I really don't on a daily basis want to talk about my diagnosis, or if that's where you are. Some people need that sharing to take place frequently. And so just identify what you need and then share that. Exactly. Well, this has been so much fun to have you, and I'm so glad you were able to join. And I heard through the grapevine that you have a very special project that you just completed. So tell everybody where they can find your new book. Tell us about the book. What's in it? What it's about?
It is so overtime. This book should have been out years ago, but I was busy. So I'm having my first book published this month, and we're going to, of course, have it available at all of the places to buy and to order, but we have it available now on the Kindle book and under Amazon.
Okay, so y'all can get it. So you heard her. It's available on Amazon, and you can get it via Kindle. So if for those Kindle users out there, it's available. So what's the name of the book, Karen?
It's called In the Company of My Sisters. In the company of my sisters, my story, my truth.
Oh wow, I'm excited. I gotta get my copy. So I'm gonna make sure. I should have had.
You pay for the hard copy. These are the Kindle.
That's right. You gotta sign mine. And then also, if people want to learn more about Sisters Network, where do they go to find more information?
Okay, on our website is sistersnetworkinc.org. We have information about our breast cancer assistance program.
Mm-hmm.
We have information about the educational component, our leadership series every month, the listing of our chapters in 20 different cities. We should be in 40, 50 cities. So if you know anyone who is a breast cancer survivor who wants to have a sisters network, all they have to do is call 866-781-1808, and we will get them started with a chapter in their city.
Excellent. I love it, and I appreciate that. And if they want to contribute or donate, they can go also call the number or go online as well, correct?
Or we'll come by and pick up the check if necessary.
Listen, Karen is going to pick up the check herself and bring you a book. No, I'm just kidding. Because then now you're going to have people asking about this book you were supposed to give them. I'm like, sorry, that she was just kidding. But again, I really appreciate the information you shared. The fact that, again, you walk the walk, you talk the talk, and you share that with others so that they can have an empowered experience in navigating breast cancer and then, of course, surviving breast cancer.
Surviving is the issue.
And you are a survivor through and through. And so you have been an inspiration to me. You've been an inspiration to so many in our community and so many more to come. So thank you for the work that you are doing. And I hope that this is not the last time you will be on the Edwards Empowerment Talks, but I am so appreciative that you were able to join me today. So that's all that we have for today, and I look forward to you joining me next time.
Have a blessed day.
You too.
I would like to extend a special thank you to the Texas Signal for its support of our podcast.